Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Today we're going to talk about deploying InterSystems managed FHIR servers in the cloud and building FHIR applications in the cloud. My name is Anton Umnikov. I'm a senior cloud solution architect at InterSystems. And without further ado, let's jump right to the demo. What we're going to do in this demo, we will deploy managed FHIR servers. We would look how you can interact with this service. We would look at a couple of applications, including Smart on FHIR applications, load some data from your own machine, and do a couple of other interesting things. So let's jump right to that. What I'm going to show you today is how do you use InterSystems FHIR managed service to provision your own instance of FHIR, and how do you interact with that. So let's start by doing just that. Let's say you decide to use InterSystems FHIR in the cloud. You log into the portal, you create your password, enter credentials, and you arrive to the screen like this. And first thing you want to do is to create deployment. So click on create deployment. You have a few options here. We interested in FHIR as a service. You pick one of the predefined sizes, and down the road you can scale them up or down. As you want, you click continue. You choose provider that you're going to use. In this case is AWS. Choose your region. We're planning to support in all the major geographies, so the regulatory compliance is taken care of. I know if you are dealing with healthcare data about Canadians should be stored in Canada. Data about Brits should be stored in UK, and so on. Right? I can select the deployment name, click continue, and click create. Right? So something is happening. Right? The process would take anywhere from 4 to 7 minutes. And eventually you would get to the provision system. I wouldn't keep you here just staring at the screen for 7 minutes. So I'll do the trick that they use in the culinary shows, that they put something in the oven and then fast forward to the point where system is, where cake or whatever they're doing is already done. So I'm taking you to the system that already have instance of FHIR server deployed. So then deployment is done, you would arrive to the screen like this. You have the brief overview of what you have in the system. You have your description of your FHIR endpoint and even samples of what you can do with this in the command line. You have your API browser or development portal that Pat briefly showed you earlier. We'll get to that in a minute. You have your user management portal where you can create users, modify users, assign permissions, and so on. You have logs, you have options to import data from different sources, right? Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. In a few clicks, you get from having nothing to having the system that you're ready to work with. So easy enough. In just 6 clicks, we got FHIR service deployed. We can interact with it. We can create users. We can load data. We can look through the API. What's way more important is what you don't see when you deploy the service. Actually, what is being deployed provides you with full encryption at rest and in transit, gives you high availability. So we deploy our servers in mirrored configuration across 2 availability zones. And if one availability zone at AWS goes down, and that happens, we'll switch automatically to the second one and continue operating. We give you managed backup and restore, full login, monitoring, auditing. We give you 2 different ways of authenticating your users, auth2 or simplified API key authentication that will be used through the rest of our demo, or most of it. On the high level of service, we give you connections to your own S3 buckets and VPCs. If you happen to run your own workloads in AWS Cloud, we provide you with full isolation on the level of either VPC level or level of AWS accounts, depending again on the level of service that you choose. We give you full API level of security. We use AWS API Gateway that out of the box comes with DDoS protection, throttling, a whole bunch of things that you don't see and don't have to care about, but InterSystems and AWS takes care for you. And last but not least, we have very powerful, very interesting API browser and development portal that you can use. So let's try a couple of more things with the service we just deployed. And here we transition into the, oh, I'm not. Sorry. I'm not going to the demo yet. So let's imagine that you want to do the FHIR servers yourself, and everyone can do the basic FHIR servers. There are plenty of stuff on GitHub. You can pull working implementations of FHIR servers from the Docker Hub. But to move it to the level where you can actually run production secure and compliant workload in the cloud would take way more effort. So let's imagine you want to do that yourself using some combination of open source tools and services. So to manage deployment, you need to work with tools like Docker Compose. You need to use Swagger Hub to provide your API management and API portal. Things like Con and Conga for doing your API management, what AWS API Gateway is doing for us. For login monitoring and alerting, you need to employ things like Loggly, Prometheus, Grafana. So we already at the 7 different tools that you need to assemble and combine in one solution, and you still don't cover in the FHIR server itself. You don't have authentication, identity management. You don't have encryption in rest and transit. You don't have high availability. You don't have backup restore. You don't have scale up and down, and a whole bunch of other things. So once again, just doing a FHIR server yourself is fairly easy. Like everybody can get the source code from GitHub or do a Docker pull and run some FHIR servers and probably do most of the demo that I'm about to do on your own. Getting that to the level where you can run production, secure, compliant workloads, it's a whole another level of effort. And InterSystems is taking care of all this non-differentiating heavy lifting for you, so you can concentrate on building and running applications for your customers, patients, partners, and so on. So let's jump back to the demo and see a couple of more things. So, okay, let's get back to the demo and see what you actually can do with a system, right? So the probably your entry point is here's your FHIR endpoint. This is how you connect to the system, and we even give you a sample of, okay, this is how you get the list of patients. Right, I have a terminal window here that can do exactly that. All right. And I apologize, it's not that well readable if you do in the command prompt. We were discussing, should we do that in a tool like Postman or in the command prompt? My idea that you should do that in command prompt, because if you are hardcore developer, you know exactly what's going on the screen. If you can do the curl request from the command line, you know how things work, how things are working, how you can deal with them. And right now, yeah, we did the request. We see that there are 0 patients in the system, right? We can go and we can launch the application here, yeah, and it shows, yeah, indeed, in this system, we have 0 patients. Right. If we get back to this portal, one thing you have here is the embedded API browser management portal. This is actually the very powerful tool that we provide that gives you definition for all 133 resources that FHIR provides here, and you can query the patients, you can, or patient or any other resource, you can post. So basically you can, in the browser, do all the requests you can potentially do to your FHIR server. Right? If you ever worked with FHIR or any other, with Swagger, you probably would recognize the UI and you know exactly what you can do here. And again, we do that for all the 133 resources that are there in the FHIR. Right, so let's try to enter a couple of patients here. But before we do that, we need to authorize. As I mentioned, we're doing the simplified authorization mode here, based just on the token. We'll go into the more advanced authorization a little bit later. All right, so, and we have a few examples here. So not only we provide you with API definition in this easy to consume web UI for every single resource, we provide you with a whole bunch of example payloads. So you can go into patient and you can see there are like dozen or so of different patients preloaded, right? So let's try this. Okay, we have Donald Duck as a patient. Interesting. All right, so we can try it out. Right, and execute. Right, so this is the request that actually went to the server. Right, and this is the response. We have 201, which means, yeah, the record was successfully inserted into the server, right? This line you can literally copy paste and get into the system. This set of slashes is a photo of supposed to be a photo of the Donald. So we handle attachment here. And if we repeat our search here, yeah, indeed, we have a Donald Duck as a patient now in our system. Right, we can go again back to the portal and say, let's, instead of post, let's query the patients, right? And whole bunch of query parameters you can enter here. As Pat mentioned, we support whole bunch of conditions like greater than and include, reverse include, and so on. Again, this is a very powerful tool that would let you assemble the requests that you might not know how to do otherwise really easily in the graphical manner right here. So let's execute the thing here. And yeah, now we have a bundle and the size of the bundle is 1. And indeed, we have Donald Duck as our patient in the system now, right? So built-in API management, built-in development portal is a very powerful tool that can get you easily started with FHIR. It provides you with sample documents. It helps you to create valid requests fairly easily, fairly straightforward. Now, speaking of entering data into the system, well, you probably would not want to enter data one by one. Oh, by the way, the deployment that I kicked in earlier today is completed already, right? Here it is. What we are looking for is the deployment that we had earlier today. right? And we can go to the data management part, right? And it gives us few options to load data into the system. You can do that through FTP protocol, right, which I'll be using today. And in the higher levels of the offer, you can use your own storage account. So instead of what I'll be doing with FTP client, you can do with your own S3 bucket. So let's load some data into the system. Right, I have few bundles here. Like by just the format of the files, most of you probably would recognize that these files are generated by the Cynthia tool, right? So we loaded 18 items. Here, if we'll refresh the screen, yeah, just, yeah, oh, I see there are 18 objects waiting to be loaded, 16 patients and additional bundles for hospitals and providers. So if we click import, right, the job would start in background and the data would get loaded into the system. All right, let's see if it's still there. I'm wondering if it made it in here. Yeah. So we have 17 patients right now, 16 from the FTP bulk load and 1 Donald Duck that we loaded earlier, right? For every patient, we can take a detailed look on what exactly was loaded in there, right? By the way, not to brag, but this web UI, the patient browser, is a very simple web application that took me less than 1 day to build. And I'm saying not to brag, not to show you how smart I am, but just to show you that everything that you see here is based on the standard. There are plenty of libraries, tools, articles, community support out there that can get started with FHIR development quickly. Like what I did here is a simple Twitter bootstrap jQuery and the library called FHIR.js that has predefined set of APIs to communicate to arbitrary, FHIR server, and that's exactly what's going on underneath here. Right? So not only you can build your own application, you can use, because it's FHIR, because it's standard, you can use the huge library of application already built out there. It can be open source community applications. It can be commercial applications. The framework I'm referring here to is called Smart on FHIR. Smart on FHIR is a standard way of building applications based on FHIR. And let me just show you one. Okay. So this one is probably more representative picture. If you see this screen, and if you've seen that before, you'll probably know exactly what's going on here. Right? I'm not talking about pediatric growth chart. Every parent, including myself, who ever visited with a kid to the doctor, probably seen this kind of chart. Like this is like literally how much your patient, how much your kid weight and what's the height, and it aligns it around the general population statistics, right? But I'm talking about this very specific application. This very specific application is probably the most frequently shown, the most frequently demoed Smart on FHIR application out there, right? It's very usable, it's good looking, and it's very good use case of what you can do with FHIR and building a Boston Children's Hospital. And again, over the years, again, if you look at presentations and demos that are dedicated to Smart on FHIR, you would probably see exactly this application. Right? I'm showing it to you not to surprise you, right? But just to show you, yeah, this application can run against our managed FHIR server, right? We looking at the Hannah Flatley, and where is she? Right, here's the Hannah, like the lady that we just loaded into our system. Right. Another thing I can show you is, if you're interested in Smart on FHIR, you can follow the link in here, Smart Application Gallery, and it gives you a whole bunch of applications in all different categories. Recently, obviously, few COVID-19 specific applications popped up. They all use the very same standard, FHIR. They all would be compatible with IRIS FHIR server. So not only you get an easy way to get your data up and running in the cloud in secure manner with InterSystems IRIS, you can immediately tap into this wealth of applications that was developed by the community or by the vendors. Again, some of them open source, some of them free, some of them commercial, but they all are there. They all would work for you. Okay. Now, moving on. So far, what we did, we used sort of simplified authentication that, again, you have a user get the token, and this token give you access to whatever you need, right? It might be a good scenario for development, for testing, but if you are talking about real settings with real providers and patients dealing with your data, you probably want to use something more advanced. And with our service, you can use either built-in provider, which is based on Amazon Cognito, but we just give you an easy way of tackling to that within our service, or you can configure external identity providers such as Okta or Microsoft Active Directory to be your source of identity for the FHIR servers. So let's try that. I need to do that in the incognito window to make sure like my identity is not get confused with my demo identity is not cached. So I really can show you the authentication procedure. So for that, I'll just go into the incognito window, right? But I'm essentially doing the same thing that you've seen in the portal before, right? So what you're seeing is the standalone version of FHIR server API browser or development portal, right? Slightly different color scheme, but again, exactly the same 133 resources, all the resources there is. But for us, for the purpose of this part of the demo, this is just yet another web application that we need to authorize to access the system. So let's authorize it. All right, we need to request all scopes, and right, you can guess by the URL here that we're doing something with Microsoft. Essentially, we configure this application to be authorized against Active Directory service. Let's do that. So instead of, yeah, you logged in, you need to sign in. Let's see if it would let me in. Yeah, so now I'm authorized using auto authentication with Microsoft Active Directory. So if your hospital or your organization have Active Directory already, you can configure your system in a similar way and will use Active Directory as a source of identity for FHIR server here. So now you're authorized, you can do a whole bunch of things with the system the same way I did before using token. Now using like simple token authentication, you'll be using Active Directory access token with FHIR servers. So you have seen a couple of applications, patient browser, pediatric growth chart. There are way more, right? I just want to give you here a couple of resources that would kind of kickstart your journey into the FHIR application development. First of all, the authoritative source on everything FHIR is hl7.org, right? It contains full definitions of all the FHIR resources, all 133 of them. If you are trying to understand how auth to authentication works and what are FHIR scopes and so on, that's again the place where you start. Right? If you want to just browse the source of all the resources that are out there for you in terms of smart of FHIR applications, the second link here gives you access to a wide variety of applications that are designed by community using Smart on FHIR framework, right? The growth chart, I pull it right there. I just configured it to look at the InterSystems FHIR server, right? The multiple of them, some of them open source, some of them from commercial vendors. But again, take a look at that. It's fairly easy, fairly straightforward to get one of these apps and make them run against InterSystems FHIR servers. Right? If you look at the InterSystems Open Exchange, InterSystems community, again, there are quite a few applications available in source code, including this patient browser that you've just seen in there, right? So you can get right there, you can browse the source code, you can start your development from there too, right? So to summarize what we just did, we did exactly 6 clicks, and there's a little fine print in there if you are curious. It's based on the default number of clicks if you accept all the defaults. If it's deviation from default, it's probably a little bit more, but in 6 clicks, you get the FHIR service with all 133 resources, high availability across 2 availability zones, full security, auditing compliance, encryption, and so on. You get system that is ready to run your Smart on FHIR applications, and you have quite unique, quite powerful API browser that, frankly, I haven't seen in any other implementation of FHIR service yet. Some of them would have like basic framework auto-generated summaries of your resources, but they wouldn't have samples, they wouldn't have full annotation and so on. We give you it all, again, in a 6 clicks of deployment. On our virtual global summit, there are a few more sessions that you might be interested in if you want to kind of kickstart your journey into FHIR. FHIR overview, FH 3 zeros, and introduction and FHIR search, FH 002. FHIR search is actually very sophisticated, very interesting syntax. in just URL parameters of your request, you can pull things like giving the patient and all the related information about the patient, all the medications or appointment and so on, include, reverse include, conditions and so on and so forth. So it's way more than your just simple REST request, right? So if you're really serious about building FHIR systems, please check that out too. And on that note, thank you very much. Here's my contact information. You can reach me through email, LinkedIn, and happy Global Summit, virtual this time. Thank you. Stay safe.